What's up, guys? Audiophile builds are back. And today we're going to be talking about a $900 system that I think is actually pretty decent. It offers a lot of versatility. Now, the point of these systems is not to be the best for the price point. It's mainly to go over some of your options, some potentials that you could run through. And of course, in these systems, we're always going to talk about pros and cons of the choices that I've picked. And that's what we're going to do today.
You tell him he's all you see. Tell him you got his keys, cause you thought he needed them. But he's not coming back again. So he's gone, leaving then. You won't see him again. It was convenient, but you won't be staying friends.
So today I want to start off with the concept of this system. This system is designed to basically be a mix of mobile and at-home use. So here's how I envision this being used. One, we're going to be starting off with the Moondrop 2, which is a small DAC amp that I actually just reviewed. This thing has really incredible performance. I'll get to this more in a second. Basically, we're going to be using this as a mobile amplifier with our IEM picks, and we're also going to be using as a solid state amplifier at home or a DAC for our tube amplifier that we're obviously going to be leaving at home. The tube amplifier that I've picked is the X-Duo TA26. I'm sure you're already going to be having your mind on the dark voice. I know those comments are coming. I'm going to be talking about that too. And you have the two headphone picks, which are going to be the C Audio Midnight IEMS and the new HE R9 from Hifiman. So let's go over each component here, why I chose it, and where you could potentially do a little bit better. Okay, so the Moondrop 2. This thing is going to be serving dual functions here. One, it's going to be acting as a DAC for our system, though we're not going to be able to use the balance output capability for our DAC into this system, which is a downside of this combination. So we're stuck with the 3.5 millimeter instead of the 4.4 millimeter balanced. Now this thing for a little dongle is very expensive. It's about $200. Now for that price, there are other options. One of them is going to be the equivalent price and it's only a DAC, and that's going to be something like a Modius. Now what's tricky about this is that this little dongle actually measures a little bit better than this Modius, this whole thing right here. Both can be powered off of USB, which is impressive, though this does not accept USB-C towards the actual input, whereas the Moondrop does. This Modius also has a balanced output. So again, you're not going to be able to use this with your system. So these both feature balanced outputs if you want to use them as DACs. Though this one does have more input options like optical, like coaxial, and AES. Now, if you want to spend a little bit less money and get something for about $170 that has Bluetooth but doesn't have balance and only has RCA unbalanced outputs, you could look at something like this SMSL SU6. This also features very good measurements. It does have USB-C. Notably though, you can't take either of those mobile and just use those as a DAC amp like you can with the Moondrop, because the Moondrop is actually a very good solid state amplifier for the money. It's not the most powerful for the money, but it's also a DAC amp, so you have to consider that. Now, a notable flaw in this build is that we're not going to be able to utilize, without buying separate cables, which I didn't account for in the total price tag of the system, we're not going to be able to utilize the balanced output. So the C Audio Midnights that we're going to be using as our mobile IEM option is going to be using the 3.5 millimeter that comes with it. You have gobs of power coming out of that Moondrop, so you're never going to need more for this IEM. And this IEM, I think, is a very well-balanced, kind of evenly tuned headphone that gives you some quality mids, some quality highs, and some quality lows. Good sound staging, good tonality. It's a pretty exceptional $200 IEM. This right now might be one of my top picks for a $200 IEM. There's competition, obviously. It's a very competitive space. There's a couple Moondrops in consideration for that too, but I do think that this is a pretty good combination. It's a super clean system, and that's kind of what I wanted to go for with this system, because we're going to be changing our preferences up when we get back home. So to hook the Moondrop up to this, you're going to want to get a 3.5 millimeter to RCA cable. You can usually find these for under $10. This was accounted for in the total price tag of this. Now, obviously on the C Audios, you could go cheaper or you could go more expensive. You could get a different sound signature, something more bassy, something more clinical on the top end. Now, if you want to spend like a lot less money, you could get something like Clinical's other headphone, the KZ. I think that's a great $30 bass heavy option. Another headphone that costs a little bit more, but is also very, very good would be like an IE300 or an IE600. Okay, so this system, I'm not sure about this system, and there's a couple of reasons why. Okay, so we're gonna talk about the ridiculously stupid looking headphones in a second, I promise. for now the TA26, right? RCA inputs only, it's a tube amplifier, and it is kind of a direct, sort of updated knockoff of the Dark Voice. So this thing is currently priced at $319. You can get a Dark Voice, which sounds basically the same, for about $189. So you could immediately save some money, but you won't get the more updated kind of matching gunmetal design that this currently has. Some might consider that a benefit, some might consider that a drawback. The red also happens to sort of match the headphones, so that's very cool. Now, the reason I've paired this with this headphone is because this headphone is a dynamic headphone, not a planar magnetic one like most of other Hifimans are. Now, I think at this point, most of us know what the tube sounds like versus a solid state, so you get a great example of a solid state, and you get a tube amplifier that has a lot of potential with some aftermarket tubes if you really want to run with that. If you just go with the stock tube tuning though, it's okay, but it is picky for headphones. And that's where this headphone comes in, this ridiculous headphone. Straight up transparency, I don't like this headphone at all on solid state. I actually wasn't even going to review it because of how much I dislike it on solid state amplifiers. I tried it on them, I find this to be a pitiful headphone. Now, I'm not even gonna put this on my head because I don't want you to screenshot it. It's so stupid looking. Like, sorry, but this is just whatever. It may function well, technically, whatever. I don't care. It looks really, really dumb. But if you're gonna be listening at home alone, you shouldn't really care how it looks. You should only care how it sounds. So again, I don't really like this headphone on solid states. I wasn't gonna review it because I dislike just about every component of this and I had nothing constructive to say about it. And then when I was running over this build, I thought, okay, it's dynamic. Let me just try it on a tube amplifier like this. And this pairing is actually pretty decent. It's not my favorite, but it is pretty decent. You get a much smoother sound signature out of this R9, and it takes a lot of the hotness out of the highs that exists on solid state, particularly for a song like Boyfriend from Dove Cameron. That song, she has a sibilance in her voice, and this headphone just kills me. It's very shrill. I don't like it. But then when you pair it with the tubes, it cools that down enough to be tolerable and actually quite good for a lot of different music. Now, as far as how the weird design relates to soundstage, does it work? Kind of. It kind of works. It's not the widest closed back soundstaging headphone that I've heard, but it's actually not the worst either. It's actually kind of well tuned for soundstaging specifically. It's just the other things like the top end and stuff on solid states like this that it really falls behind. So this headphone right now has seemingly gotten a price drop already, to no one's surprise because I don't see many people buying this. At $370 is what this headphone is priced at currently. So that brings the total price of everything, including all the cables you need to connect everything, about $898. So it's a $900 system. If you wanted to include balanced cables, obviously things are going to cost a little bit more. Now, I mentioned areas where you can improve a lot of this sound signature. So for $300, you could just get another solid state amplifier and run this as the DAC into that and just use that to boost the power of that if you wanted a lot more power than this TA26 offers, or if you didn't really want the tubes that this TA26 offers. Something like a 789 would work, something like a Magnus would work. There's lots of options for $300 and under that would work really, really well for that. You'd have to get a 4.4 millimeter to XLR cable if you wanted to run it fully balanced, but that is an option in this price category. Again, you could drop the price of the TA26 down to $189 if you bought the Dark Voice. Now let's talk about this headphone. So for about $370, there's not too many good closed back headphones that I really love. Though the M1060C might offer a interesting slip in here because you can take the cups off of the back. Now the tricky part here is that, you know, with just a couple screws, you can go from a closed back sound to an open back sound. But I don't like the closed back sound, but I do like it as a open back headphone a lot. So if you're into open back headphones, or if you need a mix of both, that could be an interesting option here for around about the same price tag. Oh, I'm sorry, actually, the M1060C is actually about $150 cheaper than this thing. And if you take the cups off of that, that's a killer deal. I might buy one of those actually. Whatever. Now, one thing I do like about this system is that it actually covers a lot of territory. So you have a super precise solid state option if you want to. You have a tube option with all the flexibility of adding different tubes, and you can actually get them for pretty cheap these days on eBay. And then you have the sound signature. This tube and this pairing actually makes this a pretty smooth and warm and kind of more fun-based headphone. But then of course you have the less fun, more well-balanced tuning of the Midnight. And that offers a kind of yin and yang for sound signatures. So you can go, solid state and strict with the Midnight if you want to, or you can go tubey and fun with the R9. Now, if you're gonna pay $900 for a system, is this system worth it? I would say if you wanna have a system that is capable of going mobile, maybe you go to work or something, or you commute a lot, and then you wanna come home and just have something already plugged in, and all you have to do is plug in a cable, then yeah, this system might be worth it if you're looking for this sort of thing where you wanna just come home and chill or whatever. I don't think it's the most efficient way to spend $900 in this hobby, mostly because these two options are okay, but really not great. I don't think that they're fantastic, but that's the point of these builds, is to give you options about things you could do, some of the benefits and some of the drawbacks. So I think that's gonna wrap it up. Thank you very much for watching. Until the next video, my name's Josh, signing off. Peace.